and welcome to Startup Street. I'm Ritu Singh, and with me are Arundhati Ramanan and Shruti Mishra. Here are the key headlines from the startup space. B2B manufacturing startup Zetwork is in talks with over a dozen investment bankers to raise funds for its IPO, which the company is targeting to do by the first half of next year, say sources. Bloomberg News reports Zetwork is looking to raise $1 billion through the IPO. However, the company refused to comment on the public issue size.
Japan's SoftBank Group is back in the black in style, records its biggest quarterly gains in 2 years as successful Indian IPOs, including Ola Electric and FirstCry, bolster its vision fund Kitty. Performance was also helped by higher valuations of Chinese giant Didi Global and South Korean e-commerce giant Coupang.
Wheelocity, a semi-urban commerce platform, backs $15 million funding from existing investor Lightspeed, Ulterior Capital, Aniket, and the company's founder. The funds will enable the startup's expansion to 20,000 towns and villages over 12 months, targeting a user base of 10 million customers.
Home gardening startup Ugao has raised 47 crore rupees in Series A funding round led by B3 Ventures, with participation from existing investors DSG Consumer Partners and RPG Ventures. In FY24, its revenue more than doubled to 63 crore rupees.
Elon Musk's Starlink is welcome in India, but there will be no concessions on licensing requirements, says the Telecom Minister, Scindia. He adds the satellite company is yet to comply with the relevant security standards in India.
Bitcoin's record-breaking rally continues. The cryptocurrency closes in on $90,000 on mounting expectations that regulations under the Trump administration in the US will be more crypto-friendly. Bitcoin's market capitalization is now higher than that of silver.
Collapsed cryptocurrency company FTX is suing Binance and its former CEO Changpeng Zhao, alleging that $1.8 billion was fraudulently transferred by FTX management to Binance and its executives. The lawsuit relates to Binance's sale of its stake in Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX.
Well, those were the headlines we've been tracking for you this evening. In what's brewing, SoftBank has reported its biggest quarterly profit in 2 years in the September quarter. The Japanese giant's overall net income rose to $7.7 billion. The conglomerate's steep rise in gains has been attributed to significant growth in its vision fund tech arm. Rachna Dhanrajani is here with more on SoftBank's earnings. Rachna, take us through what's boosting SoftBank's profit.
That's absolutely correct. The Vision Fund reported gains of 373 billion yen, driven largely by strong IPO performances and rising valuations in key investments like Coupang and Didi Global. But it's India that's really paying off for SoftBank. The recent listings of startups like Ola Electric and FirstCry have registered strong returns. FirstCry, which was a part of the first Vision Fund, was an investment of about $400 million, but the return is of $1.2 billion for SoftBank. Another one is Ola Electric, which was a part of the second Vision Fund and an investment of about $600 million. And now the return is of about $1 billion. Apart from this, Delivery, which is an already listed logistics company, also gave strong returns of about $306 million to SoftBank. SoftBank is also confident of their pipeline. That's the company that are set to debut in the public market soon. First up is, of course, Swiggy, which will be listed tomorrow, with SoftBank's stake in the food delivery company to be valued at about $803 million. It registers a 78% rise in their investment since 2022. Another upcoming IPO will be of Off Business, which is also expected to be a $1 billion IPO, which will be launched sometime next year. But this is the first time that the Vision Fund has marked a profit in about 9 months. So it looks like harvest season for SoftBank for all the investments they had made in the last couple of years. But that's not it. The company has now set its sights on artificial intelligence, with SoftBank's Vision Fund shifting focus to strategic investments in generative AI. The latest bets include notable names like OpenAI and Perplexity AI. Through the second SVF, the company has invested about $500 million in OpenAI. And with AI fast being integrated around the world, the gains through artificial intelligence are soon expected to show in SoftBank's financial statements.
Well, with all those IPOs, harvest season it is for SoftBank. Rachna, thanks very much for bringing us up to speed with that. Now, in What's Brewing today, supply chain startup Wheelocity, which is building a semi-urban commerce platform for India's next 800 million consumers, has raised $15 million in funding led by existing investor Lightspeed with participation from Ulterior Capital, Anicut Capital and the company's founder. The fresh funds are going to help the company expand to 20,000 towns and villages in the next year, targeting a user base of 10 million consumers. For more on how this capital is going to support their expansion plans, joining me now is Selvam BMS, who is the founder and CEO of Wheelocity, and also with me is my colleague Arundhati. Selvam, welcome to Startup Street. Thanks very much for your time here. Briefly start by telling us about this $15 million funding that you've got. How much of this is from the founders, and how exactly do you plan to deploy this for growth?
So, as you know, we've raised a total of $15 million. Part of it, a small portion of it is from the founders. A large portion of it is from investors, existing and new investors alike. And the primary use of these funds is it's going to help us expand from about 3,500 towns and villages that we service today to north of 20,000 towns and villages that we intend to service over the course of the next 12 months. So a large portion of the funds is going to go towards expansion, while a significant portion of it will also go towards strengthening our Bharat First technology and supply chain stack.
Absolutely. And speaking about that, right, commerce companies are increasingly looking at the Bharat opportunity for their next leg of growth, right, Selvam? So what is the size of the commerce opportunity in India's semi-urban and rural markets, according to you? And given its highly fragmented and unorganized nature, in a sense, how much of the market can you really capture?
India's semi-urban and rural markets, or what we call as the Bharat market, is north of $1 trillion in size, right? And yes, the challenges are true. The market is fragmented, demand is fragmented, supply chain is a challenge there, technology adoption is a challenge there. But hey, that's what makes this business even more attractive and a larger moat to build in, right? Yes, a significant portion of this market is addressable, right? And addressable in a profitable way. Provided we get the tech stack and the supply chain stack Bharat first. And that's what we are building. We are building a semi-urban commerce platform that not only embraces fragmented demand, but actually thrives in it. A supply chain and a technology stack that addresses this beautifully, both through high frequency and through a very hybrid offline-online phygital approach.
Well, Selvam, we'll get to that model very briefly, but we understand you're also looking to go beyond groceries and fresh produce into non-food FMCG items. What are the plans there, and what kind of additional revenue do you think this will generate for business?
The markets that we are going after, the Bharat market, is fundamentally deprived for access across categories, and it's not restricted to fresh produce and grocery alone, right? So yes, at this point of time, we are in grocery and fresh produce, but we have plans to expand across categories into non-food FMCG as well in the days to come. The consumers that we are servicing, the close to 1 million households that we currently service, we see significant upside in expanding our categories beyond the grocery and F&B space.
So you're looking to expand beyond that, but let's also talk about your presence, right? Wheelocity is now present in about 3,500 towns and villages, and you also claim to have served over 1 million consumers. Now, with this capital, you want to get to 20,000 towns and villages. What will help you achieve this scale and get to that, sort of 10x the number of customers in just a year?
It's the combination of great supply chain capabilities that we have built and built on top of a great Bharat First technology stack, right? One of the ways in which we've been able to, and the reason we've been able to scale our business so fast and in a value accretive way, in a profitable way, is thanks to the great Bharat First technology stack that we have built, both in terms of consumer adoption, in terms of channel partner onboarding, in terms of the routing algorithms that we have in place, built on top of a beautiful supply chain stack that is not only the lowest cost, but also is extremely high on frequency, thereby building great trust amongst the consumers that we service. So it's great supply chain capability built on top of scalable technology that's helped us scale so fast. And that's what's going to take us on our next 10x leap as well.
Selvam, quickly, since we're running out of time, you've had quite the pivot from B2B to now looking at consumer commerce as well in your phygital approach. Tell us about this strategy, how quickly you're able to convert physical shoppers to online ones, especially when you talk about rural, semi-urban areas, and how you're able to compete with the likes of Swiggy and Zepto?
We operate in a very different market, right? We operate beyond the top 200 cities of India, right? And the reason we've been successful at what we've been doing is the phygital approach, like you called out, right? We build trust with our consumers through the physical layer by being in their town, in their village, every single day of the week. And then very soon, once that trust bridge is crossed, we are able to migrate our customers into the online platform or the e-commerce ordering mechanism, right? So we've repeatedly been able to prove that our customers are willing to move provided the trust bridge is crossed. And that's the foundation on which we've built our supply chain stack.
All right. And, Selvam, in like 30 seconds, if you could answer, what kind of revenues and profits is the company generating, and at what pace is business growing for you?
We are growing at a massive pace. We've literally grown at albeit on a small base, we've grown at 100x growth over the last 6 months. And we are now looking at a 6x sort of a jump over the next 12 months. We're not getting to revenue and profitability numbers at this point of time, but suffice to say we are on a massive expansion journey.
Well, Selvam, we're going to have to leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time here today on CNBC TV18. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Moving on, ARYA, a wholly owned subsidiary of GPS Renewables, a full-stack biofuels firm, has raised 100 crore rupees of mezzanine financing from Incred Opportunities Fund and Spark Capital. The fresh capital will be utilized to develop the compressed biogas projects under its joint ventures with the Indian Oil Corporation and Bharat Petroleum. Joining us now to discuss this further is Menak Chakraborty, the co-founder and CEO of GPS Renewables, and also with me, my colleague Shruti. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, Menak. First up, ARYA, which is the product development arm of GPS Renewables, has raised this 100 crore rupees in mezzanine funding, which is actually a part of a larger round that you're looking at, right? So how soon do you hope to close the round, and how do you plan to deploy these funds?
So yes, it's a part of a larger round at ARYA. We are raising 200 crores. We should be closing the balance 100 crores in a few days. Possibly in the next 2 weeks. We already have the commitments in place. And it is a part of a larger $100 million round that we are raising across various levels. So we are raising 25 million at the top co, which is GPS Renewables. Below that, we have something called ARYA, which is our umbrella arm for project development. We are raising around $25 million, which is roughly around 200 crores. And as I mentioned, we should be closing it in the next 2 weeks. 100 CR is already done with Incred and Spark. And apart from that, we are raising another $50 million. Below that, for our JVs with IOCL, BPCL, and so on, of which around $30 million of term sheets are already signed.
All right, Menak, this is Shruti quickly stepping in. Like you just mentioned, the funds will be used to develop compressed biogas projects under joint ventures with IOC and BPCL. Can you elaborate on what exactly ARYA does, the key products on offer, and the efficiencies that you're trying to create via this vertical?
Right. So ARYA is a project developer like any other renewable company in the solar or the wind space. Here we are in the business of setting up primarily compressed biogas projects. In particular, we have been successful in forming 50-50 joint ventures with the largest oil marketing companies of India, such as IOCL. That JV is already in place. Our joint venture with BPCL has been approved, and same is the case of our joint venture with Oil India as well. Through these joint ventures, in the next 1 to 2 years, we will be setting up at least 50 compressed biogas projects, and in the next 2 to 3 years, possibly up to 200 compressed biogas projects. We are talking about a potential capital outlay of around $3 billion. That is what we'll be doing in the next few years.
So potential capital outlay of $3 billion. ARYA was sort of founded with an aim to help India achieve its net zero target. It sort of incubates, develops and operates climate positive projects like you just explained, with GPS Renewables as the execution partner. If you could sort of take us through the other kind of projects that you're working on, any new, offerings on the anvil?
Absolutely. So we started off with, biogas, and that is something which is extremely, integral to India's net zero ambition. Not just that, as a country, it's extremely important from a, let's say, a geopolitical perspective as well, because we believe biogas can play an important role in making India energy independent, and that is why that's not only our focus, but that in a way that's a focus of the government. Talking about future avenues, we have already started taking our baby steps towards sustainable aviation fuel. We believe that's going to be a very important part of the whole climate puzzle. As globally speaking, we already have a conditional commitment of around $200 million from a Dubai-based fund called SAF1, and we have already started taking the baby steps toward that. Hopefully, we should be able to do for SAF what we have been able to do for biogas. That is making biogas in India the cheapest, molecule anywhere in the world.
All right, Menak. Over the next year, I believe your focus will be on expanding your capacity and strengthening partnerships with key players. While you've taken us through your offerings and the key partnerships, if you could take us through your expansion plan, what new capacities are we talking about?
So as I mentioned, in the near term, the growth, vehicle is going to be ARYA and the joint ventures which we have been successful in forming. So the focus is on compressed biogas. That would be the primary focus for the next, 2 to 3 years. Post that, we would be looking at downstream molecules, which would be sustainable aviation fuel. That we have a much larger vision around that. The kind of vision we are building is for around $5 billion, and we have already started taking, the necessary steps towards that. What we see today is kind of a reflection of the way the whole biofuel market is growing in India, which has been on a kind of a hockey stick growth, and we have been kind of fortunate to be a part of that journey. But yeah, that's what's that's a peek at what we have been up to, so to say.
Absolutely. So big expansion plans there as well. But if you could sort of take us through the kind of revenues GPS Renewables is currently making and the kind of targets you've set for this year, and how big of a role does ARYA play when it comes to the larger business?
Sure. So last year, FY24, we closed at 460 crores with an EBIT of roughly around 60 crores. We have always been profitable. We have been in a sector, where we did not have a choice but to be profitable. So last year, we closed at just under 500 crores. This year, we expect to do a minimum of 1,200 crores of revenue, and we aim to maintain similar profitability levels. As far the future is concerned, there are too many moving pieces, but we believe, we should be able to maintain the same trajectory that we have been seeing in the last few years. That's in terms of, the kind of the growth that we have seen and what we have been able to, achieve.
Okay. All right, Menak, with that, it's time for us to wrap up this conversation. Many thanks for joining us on Startup Street today, and wish you the very best with all your growth plans.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Well, we've got to take a short break on that note, but up next on Investor ARYA, early-stage venture capital firm Inflexor announces the first close of its targeted 350 crore rupee opportunities fund. We'll talk about their investment thesis and more on the other side.
Welcome back to Startup Street. Early-stage venture investment firm Inflexor has announced the first close of its targeted 350 crore rupee opportunities fund. The fund has achieved around 80% of the target corpus, and the final close of the fund is expected by the end of the month. Inflexor is a sector-agnostic venture capital firm that invests in technology-based early-stage companies and currently manages 1,000 crores of assets under management. To talk to us about the opportunities fund and more, joining me now is Pradeep Mazumdar, partner at Inflexor. Also joining us is my colleague Ritu. Pradeep, welcome to Startup Street. You say this transaction has generated returns and liquidity for all your existing Fund 1 investors through a full portfolio sale of assets. If you could elaborate on the contours of the deal, what kind of returns have you been able to give to your investors?
Thank you, Ritu and team, for hosting me. Right, appreciate it. So, Inflexor Opportunities Fund, we are raising 350 crores, of which we have approximately done the first close of around 80-odd%. The fund has been well received by institutional and family office and ultra HNI investors from the Indian market, and these are all new set of investors who have backed us. This particular opportunity fund will be using some part of the capital to acquire our Fund 1 portfolio of assets, and the balance capital will be used for follow-on investments into select companies from that portfolio of assets as and when those companies raise incremental capital. As you are aware, typically private equity VC fund investors typically target benchmark returns in excess of 25-odd%. Our existing Fund 1 investors who took an exit have been able to achieve returns well in excess of the benchmark returns, and in fact it is in the top decile performance, based on Preqin benchmark studies or Cambridge Associates benchmark studies that have been done in the past. Right, that's what I can talk about from a returns perspective that our Fund 1 investors have generated.
Well, Pradeep, hi, this is Ritu quickly stepping in to just take forward what you said. How much of this target corpus from the Opportunities Fund will you allocate in the next, say, 3 to 5 years to maintain or increase stake in your portfolio companies?
So almost 40% of this capital from the Opportunities Fund will be allocated for follow-on investments in companies from the existing portfolio as and when they raise more follow-on capital.
Okay. Pradeep, you've achieved the first close within 6 months of the launch of the Opportunities Fund with a sizable investment from HDFC AMC. Like I said earlier, you're a sector-agnostic fund. Tell us, how many startups are you looking to invest in, the sectors, and what will be the ticket size?
So from this Opportunities Fund, as I mentioned, we have been looking to do follow-on investment in existing portfolio where we would like to hold on to our ownership and in some cases even increase our ownership. Check sizes based on transaction contours will vary anywhere between $2 to $4 million when we do such follow-on investments.
All right, Pradeep, you're currently deploying from your second fund, which you raised in 2021. Looking back as to, what would you say have been some of your top bets, biggest success stories, and, what are your expectations when the exits do start to happen? You've already had one.
Sure. So our second fund was, as you rightly mentioned, was raised in 2020. We were backed by institutional investors and family office at that point of time as well. We are currently 70% invested out of that fund, and some of our top bets from our second fund is Atomberg Technologies, Kale Logistics, Bioprime, right, Play Shifu, Bellatrix Aerospace, Predflow. These are some of our top bets from our second fund. From the exit perspective that we have managed for one of our second fund portfolio companies, a company called Steradian Semiconductors, which was recently acquired by a Tokyo-listed company, right, from the semiconductor space.
And how big, Pradeep, are you on artificial intelligence, and what kind of AI companies do you see coming out of India?
So we are pretty bullish on the AI space. We have been looking at this space right from our Fund 1 days itself. We think foundational AI companies will be built in the overseas markets, predominantly in the US market, but India has a head start in terms of, building companies using applied AI, right? Or verticalizing the entire AI piece. And that's where we are focused on, and we have a couple of bets in that segment as well from our fund too.
All right, Prateek, thanks very much for your time here today on CNBC TV18. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Startup Street from Shruti, Ritu and me. Goodbye and many thanks for watching. More news and updates are coming up on the other side.